Alright, you guys, we are back today working on the turbo Foxbody Mustang, and big updates. The car is running. It runs super good. It has oil pressure, which is good because the oil pressure wasn't very good last time. I've essentially got all the little things very close in this car. There are a couple changes I still need to make. Obviously, looking around this engine bay, you can see it still looks very sloppy, right? So there's a number of things I need to clean up. No intake air temp sensor yet. I'm gonna weld one into my elbow here. I've started on the catch can. Again, that's gonna be very tough to make work because there's not a lot of room in this engine bay, especially for dash 12 lines. I figure out something to do back here around my AC. I got vacuum lines and stuff everywhere, so I'm gonna convert all those vacuum lines to push to connects. But yeah, let me take you through some of the things I've done on the car, and then we will fire it up and rattle it off the two-step. Let's see what you think. All right, so one thing I had a lot of trouble with was transmission cooler. So what I did is I've got this little derail transmission cooler, and this is mounted right underneath the driver's side floorboard, right there. Just stand up here. And so the lines essentially come from the transmission through the cooler. Well, one line comes through the cooler, come up to these bulkheads, and then my lines run through and into the radiator. And I was really surprised, but I actually have clearance on this top fitting. So it's not a ton of clearance. Let me know if you guys think there's going to be an issue with this, but I think it's going to be all right because realistically my oil feed line is just as close to the turbo, and that line was on my car for like 5 years before. So due to lack of space under the engine bay here, essentially this side of the engine bay is where I've ran a lot of hoses and stuff. And this side underneath with the starter, that's where my exhaust will flow out to the mufflers. So I've obviously got this big old dump pipe here, and my thoughts are this. So I'm gonna take, essentially when I go to the track, I'm gonna have like a 90-degree kind of piece that bolts up and connects to the mufflers on the car. And when I go to the track, I'll take that 90-degree piece off, and then I'll put my fender dump back on here. The reason for that is because I used to have a cutout in my Camaro, but I found the cutout was always rattling and it would really drive me nuts. And so in the case of that car, just with the, I don't even know what the muffler was. It was ridiculously quiet. It was like a magnafuel or something like that. It's a weird brand. Anyways, in the case of that car, the cutout rattling was almost as loud as the exhaust on the car. So it just drove me insane. So I said no more electric cutouts. It's just going to be fully through the mufflers, and when I go to the track, it's going to be fully out the fender. And one nice thing about this Hooker Blackheart exhaust I have on the car is that it's all slip couplers, so I can take the whole exhaust off of the car in maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So it's a good way to shed probably 60, 70 pounds, in 20 minutes before you go to the track. Just don't get pulled over on your drive there. All right, as far as clearance is concerned, there's not much, but we've got power steering. There's an alternator underneath the power steering pump. Show you there's a gap there. Down in the engine bay here, you can see a little bit more of the alternator and the idlers. So this stuff is all extremely tight, but this is just V-banded on, so you can take it off pretty easily. See down there a Summit SFI balancer pulley. That's nice because it's actually smaller than the factory pulley, so it gave me a little bit more room over on this side with all this junk down here. So you can see AC compressor is on there. The AC system is still pretty much charged. I didn't lose anything. I think it's got a slow leak somewhere maybe. You can see our headers, custom made headers here. They clear the plugs very well. Let's get some light on there for you. There we go. So yeah, lots of clearance. Easy to take the plugs out, which is one thing I wanted because you want to be able to pull plugs to check your tune. I will be putting the coil covers back on here. Those plastic Holley covers will be going back on. Fuel system news, we got the Bosch 210s. I did have to get injector spacers on top of the 210 injector and do a little bit of magic on my fuel rail to make sure the spacing was correct, because the 210 is so short that you can't just run it. Unfortunately, you have to run a spacer on this application. My fuel pressure regulator over here. So in the back of the fuel line over there, I got a -8 line from the back of the car up to the front. -6 return through the regulator. Fuel pressure sensor here. Under this side of the car, somewhere, right there, is a flex fuel sensor. And out back, we've got this guy, magnafuel 4303. I got a pre-filter and I have a post-filter in line as well. My fuel system video, this was a -8, but I've changed this guy to a -10 now. And yeah, welded the sump in the tank. You can see some more details about that in the fuel system video. But so far this is working, and I mean, I've just been idling it in my driveway. I can't actually drive it yet because it's just raining so much here, but I'm hoping to do that next week. So yeah, there's not a lot left to do with the car. I want to clean up some of these wire messes, finish up the catch can. That's pretty much it. And she's going to be close to ready to go. The last thing I'll be doing on this car after I get it running and driving is building a new rear diff for it. So I got some strain 35 spline axles and a spool. But enough babbling here. Let me fire this thing up outside and show you guys how it sounds.